There was wisdom in my hand. It wasn't the Bible, it wasn't the Gita, it wasn't the Koran. It was wisdom. Wisdom in my hand. It wasn't the Bible, it wasn't the Gita, it wasn't the Koran. It was wisdom right there in my hand. Woo.
All right, welcome to episode 74 of Ancient Wisdom. The soul was once a charioteer, alighted with wings, and dwelt in heavenly realms amongst the gods. The chariot, equipped with a white horse and a black horse, drove the soul to all desired and divine abodes. However, one day, the charioteer failed to properly control the black horse, causing the chariot to fall from grace, crashing down to earth, the wings of the soul destroyed in the process. And now, in human form, the soul struggles to return to the realm of enlightenment and regain its wings. Oh, man.
We gotta rope in the black horse?
You gotta rein it in, baby. Keep them all, I don't know, even.
Sounds like Arjuna with the chariot again. That's
yeah, isn't that deep? And they have a very similar one, very similar myth in the Hindu tradition as well. So as you could tell, the themes of today might be what guides you? What horse do you listen to? What forces? And where are you going?
Man, the horse that failed him, does it represent something?
Could be. I think we'll find out today in episode 74 of Ancient Wisdom.
It wasn't the Bible, it wasn't the Gita, it wasn't the Koran.
But those are the themes of today, and we're going to get into it with chapter 14 of the Bhagavad Gita. I think we're going to have some fun today. There's a lot in chapter 14, so we're going to have to probably break it into two segments, but we'll see what we could get done. And oh my goodness, we are reuniting with some old friends. You might know them as the Gunas. The Gunas, my friend. In this week's Gunatraya Vijbhaga Yoga.
Oh man, they're gonna tell me something.
You're gonna know by the end of this. You're gonna be fucking wise. Gonna know what all those means. Otherwise known as the yoga of the distinction of the three gunas.
What?
It's only that yoga could be anything.
The guna
yoga
of the
that
distinction
separates
of three gunas.
Yeah.
The other yogas.
Yeah. I could have a yoga of how I walk to work.
This is the dividing yoga that separates that yoga from the other yoga, not to be confused with the yoga of the...
Well put.
Before he even got his thesis out.
So off the top it said, the blessed Lord said, again I shall declare to you this supreme wisdom, the best of all knowledge, the best. He's saying the distinction of these three gunas is the best, supposedly. By becoming fixed in this knowledge, one can attain the transcendental nature, which is like my own nature. Now, what is this saying? My own nature? What I hear you saying, God, is that I can become like you? I can become like God? Is this true?
It's saying that... Oh, man.
Because I've always heard that you can't become like God. In fact, that's not good.
It's... Oh, man. On the eastern side, it's good. On the western side, it's bad.
Right.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be so sure because I think to myself, just like how we ended last week, the Christian apprehension of being God, right? That's such a big thing. We ended talking about how in many ways it's defined as Satanism. One is God. But then I kind of looked into what's actually going on here. Where did this all start? Do you guys know about this? The Council of Nicaea in 325, it was finally decided They had argued about it for 300 years. It was finally declared that Jesus is both fully God and fully man.
See, that's
Isn't that crazy?
That's why I think it's hard for Westerners to understand what transcending nature means, because they have a real life example and an image of a God-like human being on Earth. And, they see that, but they're like, I could never attain that. It transcends my nature. But it's like, but you're also saying Jesus is human in your nature.
Right.
So which one is
I
it?
am fully man. I know that.
That lines up great with like the dates I was talking about. Like,
Yeah, isn't that funny?
300
Perfect.
What's the 300 AD? They like the Dark Ages get started or something.
Pretty much, yeah.
But before that, I guess like before the whole hell concept came up to be a controlling factor, I guess people were philosophically arguing about the nature.
Yeah,
of man
for
and
like
God.
hundreds of years to
and
even
then-
know what Jesus was. He's God. He's not God. He's a man. He's the son of God. And then finally his council said right at about the time that Rome is really declining, they're like, all right, guys, he's fully God, fully man.
But that's the thing. Only Jesus can be that. So if you think you're part God, you think you're like some fancy savior Jesus? So I think that's the same point where thinking you're God became evil.
Nice.
In the
There it
Catholic
is. So
Church.
that's kind of what I got to in my historical studies here. But then I also think it's pretty funny because some proof comes a little earlier with Paul talking in Thessalonians. He who opposes God proclaims himself to be God. The enemy of God says it him.
And that's
So-
basically the definition of Satan.
Yeah. So Paul
it was.
basically says it right here, but it gets a little weirder. And so I really want to know what you guys think and also comment at home. Because then he also goes on to say in Corinthians, Paul's a crazy guy, dog. Be imitators of me as I am of Christ.
Now he's not even talking about God. Now
Yeah.
he's saying me.
So look at Paul's progression here. He says, you can't be like God because that's evil. Then he says, no, God's in me. Then he says, be like me because I am Christ.
Oh man, he's becoming God.
He's becoming God, dude. Paul,
It's going to his head.
Woo, it's going to his head. He's talking to all these people in all these different cities. He's being worshipped and stuff like that, becoming more Christ-like. And he said, nah, like actually imitate me. Now.
Maybe much like us, Mitch, he's struggling with how to interpret the
Very
Lord.
deep, very open-minded of you, Poet. Very understanding.
Or what if he's
Very
like,
Christ-like.
what if he's like, don't be like me, be like me?
Yeah. Oh, see, Evan's getting to the philosophical point of it.
What do you mean by me, man?
So I think what we could prove as of now is that there's a lot of problems with wording going on here now. Or Paul is just the devil by his own admission.
Maybe because he was just becoming like Jesus 2.0. And the church was like, we can't have this again. We already
Right.
figured it out. We already got it under control. We already stabilized it. We can't have another, thing from starting from scratch.
Yeah, exactly. Paul is the Paul is the Jew who's the manager.
The managerial.
Yes. Jesus was the talent, but Paul was the manager, so he went out and the promoter, so he went to all the different cities talking about the talent. So, he might have even been worse in a lot of ways. Because if Jesus just died and there was no Paul, there might be no Christianity as it is today. But so you might be saying to yourself, oh yeah, man, this guy, he's fallen. He's being succumbed to the temptation of all this fame that he's getting right now. But what if I told you that Jesus said the same thing? Would you believe me?
To not be godlike?
In John 10:31, then the Jews took up stones again to stone him.
Damn.
And Jesus answered to them, I have shown you many good works from the Father. For which of these do you stone me? Which is fucking badass already. I did all these great things of God. Which one are you killing
Yeah,
me for?
pick one of these great things.
Let me know. Tell me, and
wanna kill
I'll
me
gladly
for?
die.
Not gladly.
I'll gladly die. Because he goes on to say, Jesus answered them, is it not written in your law, I said, ye be gods? Man. Dog, if you look at Jesus, it's like the Bible is the craziest story of all time because even the whole story of Jesus, I could see why people think he doesn't even exist sometimes because his whole life, everything that he says is a reference to the Old Testament. It's a reference to Jewish scripture.
He's tying it back to the law they know so well.
Exactly. And not only that, his stories is like the fulfillment of the prophecies as well. One of the prophets said he'll be born in Bethlehem, and all this stuff. He'll be in the line of David, so they do the genealogy. It seems like fake. Everything they said, like Jesus is the fulfillment. And if you believe he's real, then he's real. But but it also seems like way too suspicious. So I could see why people have their doubts. Although we do historically supposedly know there was a guy named Jesus, at least.
Makes me think of that story you were telling earlier, the Greek story about the black horse going off. It's almost like Jesus was the one who was trying to reel it back in for the Jews.
I love it.
Because they lost their way, in a sense.
Well put, dog. And that's the theme. I love that. Keep it in mind. Which force do you listen to? Where are you going? But then what this really is I went back and I had to find that in Psalms 82:6, God, we got Paul, we went Jesus, now God is talking. God is talking, please. I have said, ye are gods, and all of you are children of the Most High. Damn. Y'all didn't hear this in school, did you?
Yeah, this is complete contradiction.
Complete contradiction.
Like, what are we even doing
I went in
here?
deep this week.
Let's just throw all this religion out the window. What the heck is even going on here?
Wow.
Right? Everything you've heard.
Now we're all gods?
Yeah, how come you only hear the first thing that Paul says? We're just like, don't get so egotistical, man.
That's the only thing you hear is the first sentence I said this week. Very true. Don't be all egotistical. Then he gets egotistical. Where did I learn this from? Jesus is saying, oh, you are gods. Who told him that? God told him that in Psalms. God speaking said, you are gods and you are children of the Most High. Children of the Most High. Jesus is known as the Son of God, children of the Most High. And Jesus had said time and time again, greater are the works that you will do. What does that mean?
Do you think that maybe the whole message from Jesus was that what you just said, the whole Psalms, and then the church just kept chipping away at it to say that,
I think
no,
so.
you're not God, you can't be
There it is.
Yeah.
Poached deep.
For hundreds of years, they just chipped
Hell
away
yes,
at it. That's
the
why the
evil,
scripture
like
is
you
changing.
said,
As you read
the Dark
different-
Ages.
You read different Pauls, you get different messages.
Right.
It's been edited, it's been changed.
Yo, very true. That's the only thing I know for sure is that things change. What do they call it? Principalities in this world. Jesus even said that. We wrestle not. Only principalities, only power structures are the enemies. And that's what the church became. Because if we know anything, if we learned anything from ancient wisdom, think about it. I call it Hollywood syndrome. But anything that started off cool, anything that was awesome, started with one guy who had an invention or a good idea or religion, and he was pure. And then the next guy bastardized it a little. The next guy, and and it gets diluted. Everything is the game of telephone, if you really think about it.
Like,
and there's some guy who feels like he could take power because of this.
Build me a giant temple of in Rome with the golden dome.
Yeah.
Like, where was that written?
Yeah. Where did Jesus say that? That's Christ like, give me my own state within Rome.
And a president called the Pope.
Yeah, seriously. Gold plated everything, so much wealth.
In that passage you said about Jesus telling the people, greater works you shall do.
Yeah.
I've heard people today
Like, what does that
shift
mean?
that meaning of it to say, like, oh, well, that's because we have the internet and we reach a greater audience kind of thing. I've heard
Greater the word. Oh, so Jesus predicted the internet?
that. Right, because I'm like, it's obvious that the great works that they were referring to in the time was like awe-inspiring stuff, not how far your message could be.
Yeah, because if people are talking about the internet, you could talk about Paul, too. You could just be on tour, for Christ's sake. You could just walk and talk.
I just don't like counting quantity of good works.
Right. Another great point.
Because
Quantity.
it's
Is it
just
really
like,
quantity or is it quality?
Greatness is greatness.
We know this as well. Greatness. Is it how many things you do, or is it just the quality of it? Because we know from the Tao, getting even more Eastern, that everything is a single moment. Everything is a spirit, and it's always with you. It's not. You really don't change in that sense. You become.
Man, it's like the Christians that have the Bible of the Day verse app.
Yeah.
And I like just open the book.
Just keep it up every day. Yeah, seriously.
So it's like, the quantity is there.
You go so deep and you feel like
Yeah.
you're being Christian. I'm Christian. I did my
I got
verse
my
of
app
the day.
notification
But-
that I'm a Christian.
Yeah. And this is also something they talk about in the East as well, like meditation. I heard you can't really force yourself to meditate. You can't force yourself to pray. You can't say I'm a Christian because I had the daily verse. You read it when you need it. Oh!
Daily verses. Yeah.
Daily verse. I'm Christian. You read it when you need it, and I feel the same too. I could not read the scripture for a week, and then I read it all day. You read it when you need it. That's going to be on a T-shirt.
Pull over your 18-wheeler and pick up that
Pick up
book
that
of wisdom.
You think that's why people have a hard time saying, yeah, I'm Christian, because like the name itself implies I'm Christ-like kind of thing?
Man, that's a tough one. Yeah, I don't know. I think if you really are Christ-like, you probably struggle with calling yourself a Christian. I'll say that, right? Because the whole idea of Christianity is you're not worthy. So should I even say I'm a Christian? Because I'm not like Christ. If you're honest with yourself, you know you're not. So it's kind of tough.
So Kanye is the worst Christian in the world.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, he's converting to Judaism, so people won't call him anti-Semitic. I'll link the article right here.
Oh my God.
Jesus was a Jew, they say.
So they say. It wasn't directly stated until actually the 1950s with the Satanic Bible. It wasn't directly stated that worship of self is actually satanic. They talked around it. They said these things that could sort of imply that. But I just think that's so funny that this idea is very modern when you look at it from that perspective. So I think it's just a very huge example among many on ancient wisdom of people getting hung up on words and perceived meanings and power structures and
Categories.
And of course the worst offender on this show, platitudes. Just saying things because somebody else said them and they ring off the tongue. Make your own platitudes, man. But Sri Bhagavan says, back into it, material nature consists of the three modes: goodness, passion, and ignorance. Our old friends, the Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, my friend.
Oh, right.
When the living entities come into contact with nature, he becomes conditioned by these modes. So what it's saying here to me is that even touching this earth, even coming into contact with physical nature, you are conditioned by these three. It's sort of, these are the nature of Satan in Western
I'm
terminologies.
surprised that they have goodness, but they're not listing evil. Like good is its own thing, like by itself.
Very true. I like that. And it's almost as if I would say that the evil side, they split it into two. They don't say directly evil, but they say the evil is either passion or ignorance.
Or it sounds
So
like
you have good and then the other two, which are not so good.
Gotcha. So,
But
it's
here's
not-
the secret underlying that they won't tell you till later, but I'll fill you in now. They're all bad because it's
yes.
all earthly. Even goodness is not good, capital G. If we attain goodness, it might be, in a certain perspective, the worst of it all. Because if you have goodness and happiness, you might not want to transcend that nature.
Oh, see, that's why I think Paul might not have done everyone justice, because his message is what the
Right.
Satanists rebelled against.
Yeah.
They just want to
Ooh.
make a mockery of of the "don't be God" message. They're like,
Yeah.
well, I want to be.
Yeah. Oh, he said, don't. I am.
Right. Exactly. Just do the opposite of what leadership tells you.
Yeah, it almost seems natural to just believe in yourself. I remember thinking that as a teenager too when I
Man.
rebelled against religion. I just believe in me, man.
You know what? I think Paul was just really trying to package it into a thing
Yeah.
that he could distribute to everybody.
I would have to agree, definitely, because that's how you need to do it. Yeah,
Because what we're
very
doing
deep.
right now, we're talking about God and
Right.
the universe and the spirits, and like anybody can do that. And I think Paul was trying to make it the Christian brand of
Nice.
philosophy,
Yeah, dude, he was the
right?
Jewish manager.
Yeah. And I think without Paul, like you said, Jesus would have just been not just, but he wouldn't have been known.
Yeah.
Like he would have been like his product wouldn't get out there
Definitely.
without Paul the manager, right?
Paul the manager. Hey, I got a big new product. Come
He
see.
bought the first million CDs.
Jesus, yeah, seriously, sold them for a profit. He died and shit, but he had a good life in the meantime.
I guess my point is like you need social media presence.
Yeah.
Even Jesus.
Yo,
needed
I
it.
like it a lot, man. It's so true because I always go back to just one of the GOATs, to Norm Macdonald, how he said, and I roughly paraphrase, everyone would always come up to him in the bar, man, Norm, you're so funny, man, every show. And then he's like, I'm not even the funniest dude in the room right now. And I'm like, yo, isn't that deep? He knows the only difference between him and the funny guy in the corner is that he just does stand-up comedy.
Yep.
He just toured the world. Like, I know tons of funny people, but they don't do stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
It's kind of as simple as that. You kind of need to live that life if that's what you want.
And then
in
there are
that sense.
comedians that want to be comedians that just aren't funny.
Yeah, that
And
should
they
just stop.
keep going.
Yeah.
It's kind of unrelated, but I saw a girl post on social media the other day. It's like, the reason why there's no female Mozarts or Beethovens is because all the women were bent over a stove or an oven their entire life. I'm like, well, piano exists
it.
now. Go be
Yeah.
Mozart, the female Mozart or Beethoven.
Actually, that's totally ridiculous and asinine because all women did in high class society was play piano.
Yeah, or violin.
Yeah,
or something.
they were supposed to
Yeah.
play music to entertain the men,
very,
but you couldn't write
nice.
symphonies.
Very
what the
true.
fuck? Yeah,
I didn't even think about that.
This woman needs to read a book.
Yeah, the
Jesus Christ.
harpsichord was right there in the living room.
In fact, like they were trained. In fact, yeah, they were
guests are
meant to
coming.
play that. Yeah. Bitch, get on the piano, play. Like they played more than men. Are you kidding me? And
They
like, because men
organized.
still had to have a job, so they had to play on top of that if they were really passionate about it. I heard Bach was only discovered because his sheet music was wrapping fish in like a market. It was so worthless. That's the story I heard from a musician. It was like wrapping fish, and someone's like, "What's this?" Oh, it's sheet music.
Let's play it.
Let me play it. And it was like the greatest thing ever.
Man.
Like he totally unrecognized in their
I
life.
know,
So.
that's amazing.
So I do think it's an amazing point, Poe, very deep, that you really have to package a product. No two people live the same lives, so you can't even sell it to them the same way, really. You have to appeal to almost the gunas.
It's mind bending because it's really like the biggest thing. Like how do you package
Exactly.
like the
It is the biggest thing.
It is the answer to the universe.
I'm
how to
not
live.
telling you how to play a board game. It's so heady that it's beyond headiness.
How do you package that?
Absolutely.
That's why it explains why it's transcends nature, or why God transcends nature. Because I don't think Jesus' message is something that someone else could have just like roamed the world with and talked about. That's why
yes.
they don't actually talk about the transcending nature part about God. They just talk about Jesus.
Yeah.
That's all.
Very deep. And I think, so deep, Evan, because I think that sort of has snowballed into a problem right now.
Yeah.
Dare I say, where people are all about Jesus. Oh, in Jesus' name we pray. Jesus this, Jesus that.
Yep.
God bless you if you do, man. But like,
Jesus didn't want to be worshipped.
yes, well put, dude. And there's something deeper beneath Jesus, and you also have this, but you kind of just don't do it, and instead you just obfuscate and say, Jesus, Jesus, Baba, da,
Man,
da,
am I
da.
hearing
Greater are
that-
the works you will do.
Am I hearing that Jesus' message was that we're all God and the church twisted it?
I didn't say it. You said
I didn't say it, but the Gita did.
that.
You know?
Wow, that's why it seems really sinister, that one-upmanship again. That people use Jesus for that message. It's like, do you know
Right.
Jesus?
Yeah.
I know Jesus. Like, I remember I visited this church one time by accident. I thought I was going to this other like.
They trapped me. Close the doors. What the fuck is this?
I thought I was going to this
Gotta
Republican
be
like
Christian,
town
damn
meeting,
it.
but it was at a church, so that's why I sat in the
okay.
church, and it was actually a session going on.
Oh, that's
I'm like, I should go in the other room. But it was the guy came up behind me, and he like put his hand on
You
my
did?
shoulder blade.
Oh,
He's
God.
like, "Do you know Jesus?"
Are you serious? He
I'm
did that?
starting to nod.
I'm starting to be confused. Good, we're all confused.
But yeah, he was. It's like Jesus would have been like, "Man, get your hand off this guy's back and
he'd
shoulder."
break his arm, beat him with a switch.
Yeah, man, this just goes back to the product. Like, it has to be packaged. It has to be shown that.
Yeah, no weird gay guys with the hand on the shoulder. That's not part of the product.
Yeah, but like in his mind, he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna sell my brand of Christianity to this newcomer, right? I'm gonna make him feel welcome
because he doesn't know.
Yeah, there it is. It's all a brand.
Yeah, but he's doing that because he's so used to having lost Christians, I guess, come see him.
Wow.
But like, it's,
true.
Oh, man, this is just going down so many layers of like self-fulfilling.
It's deep, isn't it? Yeah, very true. So let's really break it down as to what these three are, the distinction of the three gunas. Let's start with goodness, sattva. So this is also purity, harmony, goodness, all these words, all these positive words, right? Everything I want to attain. And Sri Bhagavan goes on to say about it, "O sinless one, the mode of goodness being purer than the others is illuminating. And it frees one from all sinful reactions.
This is insane.
Those situated in that mode develop knowledge, but they become conditioned by the concept of happiness." Wow.
I need a chart, man.
It's purer than the others, which is illuminating. It doesn't say it's better than the others or any word like that. It's just more pure. It's the purest form of being trapped on earth is goodness, is sattva. And it frees one from, there's three portions of this, so it's broken down again. It frees one from sinful reactions, develop knowledge, that's the illuminating part, but they become conditioned by the concept of happiness. These are all very deep. But starting from the top, I'll say, sinful reaction is such a cool phrase. Such a cool phrase. What do you guys take from this, right?
The sinful reaction phrase.
Sinful reaction. Now, what that says to me is that sin is not how we have even been seeing it, as doing something bad. Because if things already happen, then all you could do is control how you react to it, right? The sin is not going to do something bad. It's no, something bad happens to you, which is seemingly more prevalent in the world. When do you I'm going to go and fuck some kid up? I don't know. When do you just go say, I'm going to purposely do something bad? It's something bad happens to you that you don't like and you react to it. That's where the sin comes from. We don't think about it a lot that way.
It's a transference of energy and sin almost.
And you could see where sin started because the old creative writing tropes. You have to know who versus who. Is it man versus man versus nature? You remember these? Man versus establishment. These are sort of the essence of creative writing, which is the nature of life. It's all a big story, right? So the original sin was just man versus nature. A dude stubs his toe. And he's like, fuck!
Wow.
And then because he knows that his toe will now hurt for the next week and he's not happy about it. Therefore, the reaction of sin appears. The original man versus nature.
Oh, that's why I was so bad at creative writing. I never understood those concepts of conflict.
Yeah, those are the conflict things. Yeah, exactly.
No wonder I'd never introduced a conflict to be overcome.
My story was just rainbows and sunshine.
There's nothing going on.
Yeah, nothing really happens in this store. It's cute and all.
It's good, right?
You like it? There's the tension.
Yeah, it's nice and organized. Nothing happens.
Something deep about it.
Yeah. You're by stubbing your toe. You didn't snap back into it. You got mad and you were hurt for weeks.
Yes, well put. In fact, it snaps you out of it, which causes the sinful reaction, which is it snaps you out. Opposite of illumination, you are now in darkness. Opposite of darkness is illumination, which is goodness.
It's almost like the Kubler-Ross 5 stages of grief. It's like you have denial first, like you stub your toe. It's like who built this corner of this wall here? Who put this bedpost here?
The second mode of the nature of goodness is to develop knowledge. It's illuminating. Why does goodness illuminate exactly? Is this tied to a sinless reaction at all? I think true knowledge is sort of purity. It's not knowledge, not I know more than you, thinking about what we talked about Jesus and who is God. It's purity. It's the Tao. That's what knowledge is always defined as, like knowing oneself in that one moment. It's not knowing something in the mode of passion so that I know it later so I could become smarter than you. It's knowing it now, which is purity, which is the opposite of phoniness, living in one's pure moment. And so I could relate this with a little story. I recently subscribed to Kill Tony. Have you seen that?
Heard of it?
No.
You guys don't know Kill Tony?
Never
What?
heard of it, no.
I've never watched it, but I've heard of it. Tony Hinchcliffe,
It's pretty
right?
famous now. Tony Hinchcliffe, he's been described as Satan incarnate.
Yeah, he's like just a really witty comedian. That
He's
can
so witty,
pop
dude.
jokes off like crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
And
he
they
just
challenge
like
him.
So the show is that he's just up there with a panel of famous people, and he just picks a name from a hat, people that signed up in the audience, and that person comes up on stage, a random guy from the audience. And they do 60 seconds of comedy, which usually sucks, and then the celebrities just fucking go ham on their shitty comedy. And I was like, yo, because I hate stand-up comedy, but this was interesting because this is not stand-up comedy. This might be the opposite of stand-up comedy. It's just making fun of people who suck at stand-up comedy. So I'm like, oh, wait, this is a pretty good show.
Ripping people apart.
Yeah, it's pretty great, dude. You get a fat person on there, it's over. Woo.
Oh, but are
my
you trying
God.
to spin it in a way where that's good for them kind of thing?
Well, basically where I was going with this is it's become this way to get famous really quick. No longer do you have to tour the country for 20 years and slowly build up your name like Paul did. Now you just go on Kill Tony in the audience and you could get famous overnight, and then you get deals in 60 seconds. Then they start asking you questions and, whatever afterwards. Where am I going with this? I learned that you could completely bomb your set. You could have the worst 60 seconds, everybody hates you, booing you off stage, but then there's that little interview afterwards where Tony starts asking you questions. And if you're just likable, you could get famous. You could be famous for the tiny fee of just getting made fun of a little bit.
Whoa, man.
And if that doesn't bother you, you could get big.
You know what? That's pretty enlightening because
I thought so.
I think that's what modern entertainment, I think people are starving for entertainment that resonates with their soul. And it's like, that could be me up there on stage.
Right.
Because people hate me. And that guy's hated for no reason, for getting his name called out of a hat, but people are like booing him, talking shit.
Right.
And all this stuff. It's almost like a small sacrifice, a small crucifixion in a way.
For a small price. Dude, you don't have to do all this shit. You don't have to tour the country. You don't have to do anything. All you have to do is go on stage and be likable. Nobody gets these opportunities. Elon Musk, for all his money, doesn't give anybody no opportunities. He doesn't start small businesses with people. Like, that's the real change. I always thought when I was young, like, if I was a billionaire, how can I really help the world? I know people with addictions. I know people with problems. I've never been able to help them in my real life because humans can't help other humans. Only God can. Only they can help themselves.
Maybe Elon is enlightened with that knowledge and doesn't help anyone.
Right. So
Probably not.
So very true.
Probably not.
I honestly think if I was rich, I'd be like, I'm not giving money to
If
these
I helped
fucking
you, I'd be hurting
losers.
you. So
Yeah. So that being said, and I do think that is very true, I think maybe the second best thing you could do is sort of just invest in them. Make more opportunities available for people. And I think that's the one way you could help people with money.
Totally agree.
Right?
If you
Not
get
by giving it to
straight
them
up donate
directly.
money to people, give them money.
Right, and that's absolutely the wrong way to do it. They'll blow it so fast because they haven't changed.
Yeah.
But if you give them the opportunity, then there's more chances for them
that's
to
really
change
all
themselves.
you can do.
But so basically my point is that, like, everybody who watches Kill Tony says, man, Tony's such a demon. Like, all he does is make fun of fats and do racist jokes and this and that. And I'm like, you're so dumb.
Wow.
You never had what it takes in the first place because this guy is giving you the opportunity of a fucking lifetime. All you have to do is not suck. And even if you suck, just be likable. And I'm trying to relate this to goodness because goodness is purity.
It's not so straightforward, though. I think that likability also comes from a person's, I guess, projection of themselves, or like whatever traumas they had. Because a person can be very likable. People have told me this, like, you shouldn't worry so much. You're so likable. And I'm like, how could you say that?
How could you say that? Shut up.
Like you don't know me. You don't know how much I hate myself.
Hell yeah.
In a way, that could be an insult. But like, you're so likable, don't change. It's like they want you to be dislikable almost.
Right.
I don't know what it did, but someone called me likable once and like broke my brain.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm like, wait, why did you say that?
Yeah, what
and it like
that's
almost
deep.
made me feel like I can never be likable again.
That is
they told me
mischievous.
Yeah, very
that I was
true.
likable, and I was like,
Like
how
why
could
they
you do that?
needed to say it in the first place.
How could you do that
Yeah,
to
very
me?
true. Taking compliments is weird too, because then you wonder where the compliments are even coming from.
But I heard you just
why
gotta
are
take
you
it.
saying
Rooted
something?
I heard you just
Yeah,
gotta
what's it
take it.
rooted in? Do you want something from me? Like,
Yeah, did I open up an opportunity for you to say that I'm likable? I don't get it.
Yeah, very true. But so what I'm hearing you saying, and where I sort of take this is I see the spirit here where, like, I see it in relationships. A girl gets broken up with and she's upset. But she says to herself, but I was so honest this time. I was being so pure. I was being myself. And yet, fuck that guy. You know what I'm saying? But what most people don't realize is if you were being pure, if you were being your likable self, then they did you a favor. It's hard to realize because we're so conditioned by culture, but they really did you a favor saying, okay, you were pure. If you were as pure as you could be and they still didn't like you, okay, you have to not take it as a rejection of self, but take it as a rejection of compatibility. He even asked you the funniest question nobody has an answer for. Name one redeeming quality about you. And you suck at stand-up, you're fat, you're ugly. Name one redeeming, why we should like you. And nobody can think of it. Or they're too nervous and they're like, I like hiking and dogs. You're like, get off stage. One guy said, I love my wife. Get the fuck off stage. Get off stage, you're nobody. And I says, wow, Tony is making fun, but he's doing you a favor because he's saving you a lifetime of thinking that you're going to be a comedian. This is a long way of saying purity. I think that's so deep. Conditioned by happiness. That's the last part of goodness, which is happiness being a good, quote unquote, goal, but it may still be mired in deception. Why do you want to be good? Why happiness? Happiness almost seems like, to me, it's kind of funny, in this hierarchy of hierarchies, happiness seems to be the final boss. Because we all say we want happiness. Everyone in culture says, I want to be happy. Where's the happiness? It's there, it's there, it's here. And then you finally get it after 50 years. You're like, whoa, but it's the final boss because even that is a deception.
Yeah.
Even your happiness is not real. And it's this sad realization that much like the rest of it, it also is just the highest nature of the highest guna.
And it's tricky because it's very associated with being good, too.
Yeah.
The guna of good in this
Right,
world.
you want good, and then what's the top of good is the happiness. But even that, even sort of, it changes to a pleasant form almost, but it's also false. Moving on to Rajash, which is passion. This is, I feel like we're going to get some discussion on this. The mode of passion is born of unlimited desires and longings, and because of this, one is bound to material fruitive activities. And I remember when Jesus said in Matthew 6:25, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink, or about the body, what you will wear, in the Sermon on the Mount. Remember that one? This is always the toughest one. This line is the greatest of the whole Bible. It's probably quoted the most. Of this Bible, the best part is the Gospels. Of the Gospel, the best part is the Sermon on the Mount, because you could just read that and know what the whole Bible is about. Supposedly. You don't have any context, but you supposedly know that you shouldn't worry, basically, about anything. But so often, people find this very unrealistic. How can I not worry about what I eat? How can I not worry about what I wear? How can I be like the birds and the bees?
Faith versus fear.
Faith versus fear. And I think my answer always comes down to that worry is something that steals any real substance from life. Because passion is stuff that we want to get. We want to get for this world, but you are missing the main storyline behind what's going on. And when you worry about not getting it, the opposite of faith being worry and fear, it steals any reality that you may have had from life. It steals any connection you might have had with the moment, with God. It'll happen of its own where you don't have to kill yourself over it, aka worry about it in all these ways. So I think with passion, you guys still with me? Mm-hmm. The ultimate desire is wanting to get something out of life. Passion is desire. Buddha says don't like desires. What is the desire? What is the main disillusionment we have? Is thinking that something will come from life. And the sin of the Christians a little bit is like, I'm going to fake like I'm a Christian all throughout life. It's the ultimate scam, so that I'll go to heaven. I will get something out of this life. This will be for something.
Wow. That's pretty simple. I've never heard it said that way before, though. It's all self-serving.
Right, and in that way, it is the ultimate sin. How strange. Because you're looking for a treat afterwards instead of accepting the treat now.
Life is for life.
Wow.
Life is for life, baby.
Life is for the living.
But not in the satanic way. That's where it gets deceived.
Wow, because you never heard Jesus talk about, like, I got to go through this because I really want to go back up there.
Yeah. Did he ever say that? He's like, man. No, he did it for you so that you will see.
Wow, that's deep.
How crazy. And I relate this to, of course, living in delusion. Like, you're going to get something. Like, people seriously live as if they're going to take their riches with them to the next life or something like that. As if, like, you're really going to feel people respecting you when you're dead. My story will live on. Who cares? You're dead. Like, but we really do this. It's very strange. And it also creates this busybody syndrome where you always feel like you have to be doing something and never take a moment to rest. You need credit, you need praise, you need approval. But in that sense, you're passing through life. You're denying what God really wanted for you.
To rest, Mitch.
To rest, my friend. And I'll tell you what.
I think that might be a big secret.
It's a big secret, dude. And again, the purest of all texts, the Tao, I'd say, the reason it's so pure is because it's so intangible. The purest of all texts said, I love this one because I struggle with it sometimes too, basically said, let your work be work and your rest be rest. Damn.
Don't mix them.
Don't ever mix them. It's so pure. How many times do we take our work home with us? Let the stresses of the job invade our rest time, which should be rest. I think you're with the Tao when you could do that. I think you're on the spiritual path when you could actually do that. Yes, when you're working, let it be work. Work hard. When you're not working, let it go. Because so many people, they can't even sleep at night because they're still working. In their brain, they don't have that decompression time to just be with God in the presence of what is.
Dreaming of Excel sheets.
Yeah, dude. No. And of course, the last one, very important, is tamas, also known as perhaps ignorance, darkness, also known as inertia, some say. Oh, son of Barata! I don't know what that is. The mode of ignorance causes the delusion of all living entities. The result of this mode is madness, indolence, and sleep. Whoa. Very strange, very mysterious.
That's very important.
Madness and sleep.
Yeah.
Oh man,
Why are they related?
I think I maybe had madness sleep once.
Whoa,
yeah,
we were just talking about this.
I think I've been here once.
I've been here.
It didn't last long. It was very hard to describe.
Yeah, man.
I think they're related because ignorance relates to how you should always be knowing why you're doing something. Why it is you're trying to be good or you're trying to be passionate.
Oh, that's why if you don't have it, you sleep.
True, I like that.
You have no need to be awake.
There's nothing going on right now. Might as well do something. And I've been having crazy dreams in like a different world, solving crimes and shit. It's crazy. It's pretty wild, man.
Solving crimes.
I'm a detective in my dream world.
in a different
dude.
dimension.
In a different dimension. I also had this theory. I don't know if I mentioned it on the show just for fun. I think that dreaming happens 24/7. Like, I think you're dreaming right now, but you're just not in a mental state to like be one with it. I think your dream is happening now. Like the dream that you were having last night is still happening now.
Oh, so the dream
but
is
you're not.
The dream is your subconscious train of thought.
Could be, yeah. That's
All
a good
day,
way
all
to
the
see
time.
it. Yeah, that's just a new theory of mine because it's starting to really feel that way as I'm paying more attention to dreams or like.
That seems totally
getting deep
real.
in
Because
meditation.
why do they even come up with the term daydreaming?
Yeah, and just for reference here, indolence is avoidance of activity or exertion, also known as laziness.
Yeah.
And so you guys think it's funny as me, that right? How indolence and sleeping is tied to madness. That was pretty funny at first. I'm like, what?
You know, I could see it.
Yeah.
If you really like, if you're really lazy, like indoor shut in, don't do anything. You're not really
crazy.
tuned. You're not tuned to your body. You don't know what you're even missing because you don't know how you react when you're tired or running or.
Oh, that's
you
cool.
know? Like you gotta like know
Just
what.
being totally disconnected.
Yeah,
You don't know the
disconnected from the
full
signs of your body.
experience. Yeah. Of course, the first thing I thought of was the old phrase, idle hands are the devil's workshop. And does that not feel real? Sometimes you don't got anything to do. You don't know what to do. You don't know what you even should do. You haven't planned. You don't got nothing. You end up just wasting time, almost by definition, doing dumb shit. But yeah, so we'll finish it off next week. This has been a powerful chapter so far. But for now, let's get even more Eastern with Mitch Translates the Tao. Mitch Translates the Tao, chapter 55. To possess the great virtue is to be born again an infant. Poisonous insects do not sting. Fierce beasts do not attack. Birds of prey do not strike. The bones are weak. The muscles are soft. And yet the grasp is strong. Unaware of the perfect union of masculine and feminine, this is the utmost refinement. The baby may cry all day, and his voice is not strained. This is the utmost harmony. To know harmony is called permanence. To know permanence is called enlightenment. To nourish life is called a blessing. To employ chi with the heart is called strength. Things that overexert will become old. This is not the Tao. And that which is not the Tao is already dead. Damn. Man. Damn. So we had something like this before. Poisonous insects do not sting. Fierce beasts will not attack. Blah, blah, blah. I have always said that I kind of agree with that. It was shown in the story of Jesus in the desert. He didn't die. He didn't need to eat food. He was at peace and just did his thing. I bet if a cheetah came up to him, he'd be fine.
Pet it.
Yeah, he could pet it. I bet in fact that happened.
I was imagining I imagined the dude who was filled with energy, like the light of the candle perfectly going up, and he's like walking through bullets and they're all going by him. And
Yeah.
He's just like meditating. He's like, choo, 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 choo.
Fucking Neo. Yeah.
Yeah, like Neo.
I think this is real. I gotta say, it feels something that I could only say with faith, that I feel this is real. This is a real thing. But nobody that I know has ever achieved this much. But we could be on the path at least, right?
I saw a video this morning where a lion was just getting some shade under the tree in the African plains, and then a gazelle or an antelope or something just fell out of the tree that he was getting shade in. And he just walked right up to it, and I don't know if he ate it or not, but he was just like examining it. Maybe a jaguar.
Yeah, you know what happens? The jaguar brings it up the tree to keep it away from the lions,
Right.
but he must have let go.
Right.
And he's like, oh, food falling from the sky. That's faith, everybody.
Yeah.
That's what Jesus was talking about.
Man.
And you know what Jesus
else
else said? He said to be born again. This is exactly what the Tao says right here. To possess the great virtue, Tao, is to be born again an infant. He's relating enlightenment to what you had when you're an infant, perhaps, and you can attain it again.
And also, when I read that line, I thought enlightenment is before you were brainwashed by the world.
Very deep, exactly. And
Bring
also
yourself
saying
back
that,
to infant state.
we may become pre-brainwashed again. It's not easy, but perhaps it is.
Man, I love it. That's a state of mind, being pre-brainwashed.
Yeah.
It's so like
Can't even
common.
imagine from all this brainwashing. Goes on to say the bones are weak, the muscles are soft, yet the grasp is strong. Interesting. Every time I read this, of course, until I translated it properly, I was thinking grasp, there's all those funny videos of the baby grabbing the dad's hand. You're like, he's got a strong grip. No, but grasp is really just the grasp of the Tao.
Yeah.
He may be weak, he may be small, but his grasp is strong. He is with it.
Yeah, it could be a mental or spiritual grasp of things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This next line is pretty confusing. I'd like your interpretation, of course, especially y'all at home, but unaware of the perfect union of masculine and feminine. This was tough to translate. I might not even have it exactly perfect, but I might not just be seeing it in a spiritual enough sense. It's almost as if the baby doesn't need to know about sex. The baby doesn't need to know about the opposing forces. I think what it's saying is, yes, masculine and feminine are perfect in a scientific sense, but what we call the non-dual force is taking the two and having the union of them both, the oneness that the baby already is.
I think he said it in the next line. He said, "This is the utmost refinement. Let's stop talking about it."
Boom, there it is.
Man and
He's unaware of the union, so let's stop talking about it.
Yeah.
Also, the baby may cry all day and his voice is not strained. This is the utmost harmony. Someone's harmonizing with him.
I think that line is saying that the baby crying is harmony because it's natural. The baby's doing what it's supposed to do.
I like that a lot.
He's living
yes.
as a baby. He's asking for his needs.
Oh, I like
Give
that
him.
a lot. It is of himself to do it. Maybe some people, it's weird because at first you hear this, oh, that's annoying, baby crying all day, but he's just doing what he does, as we should do what we do, so that we can judge the world properly. If we're being our authentic self and somebody doesn't like us, it's not an attack on ourselves, it's an attack on the compatibility. Or even worse, it might be an attack on their disattachment to purity, to the Tao. So that's interesting, right?
Yeah, it all goes wrong when you try to put an idea into what it should be, what male and female is, what a baby should be.
Projecting what the relationship should be,
Yep, it's like if a baby didn't cry, you wouldn't know when to feed him, when to make him go to sleep.
Wow.
And it might die.
Damn,
It
those are
needs
the
to cry.
signs of nature. Wow.
To live, it needs to cry.
Did I hear that it needs a man and a woman to raise? No one said anything.
We want to
talk
remain
about
on
it.
YouTube. Yeah, no. But yes, exactly. There's no such thing as a gay marriage. Oh!
That's a long clear of the throat.
There you go. Something in there. To know harmony is permanence. So the baby crying is permanence. To know permanence is enlightenment. It's crying forever, enlightenment. To nourish life is called a blessing. There you go, moms. Stop getting part-time jobs.
Moms.
Just nourish life, you dumb bitch. To employ chi with the heart is called strength. That's a big one, right? Because people don't know about that in the West. Employ chi with the heart. The heart and solar plexus, it's the center of chi. It's the center of your energy. seen easiest in breath work, but you can be one with the breath, that there's no stagnation at the upper end and the bottom end. It's sort of the natural. I could do a whole episode on breath work, seriously, but things that overexert will become old, and this is not the Tao. And if it's not the Tao, it's already dead. Working too hard, like we said, not having that time for rest. Isn't it great? Isn't it funny that these ancient texts always have these correlating principles? That if you work too hard, you're already dead. If you don't take time for rest, if your rest isn't rest and your work isn't work, what's it all for, man? Are you really becoming closer to God? Man, take some time. Take some time for yourself. Take some time for God. Take some time to watch Ancient Wisdom. This has been episode 74. Great to see you as always, and we'll catch you next time.